Heretic, the brand new horror movie. In this video we will be diving straight into its deeper themes and symbolism. There will be spoilers. Let us begin. When I say horror movie, I doubt that the first thing to come into your head is a theological debate. And yet, that's what this film is. It's a discussion about the nature of faith, told through the language of horror. And actually it makes perfect sense. As director Scott Derrickson has said,
I always talk about horror as being the genre of non-denial. It is an attempt to shock and to horrify and find within the horrible truth that is typically repressed or unexpressed or inexpressible.
In other words, horror cinema has the potential to explore our deepest questions. Heretic begins in classic horror movie fashion. Two young ladies, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, embark on a journey to the outskirts of their town. Horror films often start like this. It represents the transition away from normal life and into the unknown. Here, at the fringe of society, anything can happen. These two characters are Mormon missionaries, and they have been sent to the house of Mr. Reed. Apparently at his request, he has expressed interest in hearing more about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It begins to rain, or as we often say, the heavens open. It's a phrase that comes from the Bible, and this film is all about trying to peer into the heavens, trying to peel back the layers and get to the truth. They knock on the door, they see the form of Mr. Reed approaching through the narrow frosted window, and much of the film will be like this. Our characters will receive glimpses, they'll get part of the picture, but they'll need to figure out what's really going on. Mr. Reed opens the door and greets these weary travellers, apparently with a warm welcome. He's interested in talking about theology. His home is inviting. There's a blueberry pie in the works. What could be better? As the rain lashes down on these two ladies standing on his doorstep, he makes a jokey reference to Noah's flood, the biblical event in which the springs of the great deep burst forth and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. The waters of judgment swirled on the earth, and the only refuge was aboard Noah's ark. The implication is simple. He's saying to these ladies, "Come aboard my ark. Find refuge from the storm." His hospitality is almost irresistible, but this man is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Once this pair are inside the house, all contact to the outside world is severed. He has them in captivity, and now the only way out is through.
The only way out is through.
His theological tirade against them proceeds in stages. First, he attacks the specific claims of Mormonism.
Stop me when I go wrong. He was visited in the night by an angel called Moroni, who showed him where he could locate some golden plates near his home. His mysterious translation of those plates form the basis of this.
Wow!
Highlighting its uncomfortable relationship with polygamy. Joseph Smith, its founder, appeared to endorse the practice by having many wives in the early 1800s. But in 1890, the LDS Church stated in a manifesto that polygamy is wrong. Mr. Reed's point is simple. The LDS Church adjusted its teaching to make its message more palatable to contemporary culture. He claims that most religions are like this, plagiarizing each other and repackaging themselves in order to gain converts. In his words, missionaries are just salespeople. We are negotiating a transaction of ideologies. Mr. Reed then gives a potted history of global mythology. He claims that all sorts of cultures have believed in saviour figures who were miraculously born and resurrected, and therefore there's nothing especially unique about the figure of Jesus Christ. He's just a repackaging of a story which has been told time and time again. That's his claim. Mr. Reed's monologue is a powerful piece of rhetoric, although it's worth noting that many of his claims about the similarities between Jesus and the Egyptian gods have actually been debunked.
There's no reference in Egyptian mythology to Horus being crucified or resurrected 3 days later. Horus, his mother, was not a virgin woman, but the goddess Isis, and there is no specific date anywhere tied to the birth of Horus. All of these claims and many others indicating that early Christians yoinked the mythology of Horus and stuck it on top of Jesus were all completely made up by Gerald Massey, a 19th century cuckoo banana bird self-taught Egyptologist who never provided the slightest shred of evidence for any of these claims.
And even if there are similarities, that doesn't automatically discredit Jesus. But the premise of what Mr. Reed is doing here is very reminiscent of Joseph Campbell's 1949 book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. It was a groundbreaking work of comparative mythology, and Campbell examined all sorts of stories from around the world and down through history, and he noticed a recurring pattern, the hero's journey, or monomyth, which he summarizes as follows. A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. We keep telling that story. Different cultures will add their own dressing to it, but the shape of the story persists. The hero who ventures into the unknown to gain the victory. Humans keep telling those sorts of stories. It's a fascinating observation. But what does it mean? Mr. Reed interprets it as follows. He says, "The holy texts we revere are mythologies which have been iterated, not literally true, but a conduit to a more ancient truth." In other words, there is a deeper meaning to this world, he reckons. Our mythologies and religions are reflecting something of that deeper meaning, but they are distortions. Somehow we need to look past them and get back to the original uncorrupted truth. This is compelling storytelling. We have no idea where it's going to go in this movie, and it certainly rattles our two central characters, along with the fact that they appear to be trapped in this man's house. He forces them to choose between two doors, belief and unbelief. Either there is a deeper meaning to life, there is something beyond, or there isn't. The universe is simply a collection of molecules clacking together. Which door will they choose? They choose the belief door, and then things get really disturbing as they go down into the cellar. A crucial symbol in the film is the butterfly, and the butterfly's life cycle proclaims resurrection. Think about it. A caterpillar forms a cocoon, its old body dies, and what emerges is this amazing winged creature. So it's often been taken as a symbol of resurrection. Now, at the start of the film, in the living room, Sister Paxton reveals that she really likes butterflies. She says that when she dies, she wants to come back as a butterfly and follow the people that she loves. I don't know how that sits alongside her Mormon theology. It sounds a lot like reincarnation to me. But anyway, it's a semi-serious comment. And sure enough, there's an actual butterfly in the living room. It's clinging to a small six-sided window. Now, 6 is a significant number. In the last book of the Bible, Revelation, we read this: "Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. If 7 represents completion or perfection in the Bible, 6 falls short of that. And here the text is describing a kind of unholy trinity formed by Satan, the beast of the sea, and the beast of the earth, and their number is 666, a threefold falling short of the perfection of God, associated with the failure of Adam, who fell in the Garden of Eden. He was created on the 6th day. So that's a striking image, a butterfly being restrained by a hexagonal window. And I think it represents the story in miniature form. The two sisters are like this butterfly, and the hexagonal window represents the captivity imposed by Mr. Reed, this beastly oppressor. His understanding of humanity is all about control, as we will see. As things escalate and Sister Barnes gets her throat slit, apparently bleeding to death, there's another mention of the butterfly. Mr. Reed brings up the story of the butterfly dream written by an ancient Chinese Taoist philosopher. Let's check it out. "Once upon a time I dreamt I was a butterfly, fluttering hither and thither. To all intents and purposes a butterfly. I was conscious only of my happiness as a butterfly, unaware that I was myself. Soon I awaked, and there I was, veritably myself again. Now I do not know whether I was then a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly, dreaming I am a man. In other words, if I am seemingly passing between the realm of reality and the realm of dreams whenever I go to sleep, how can I be sure which is which? It's thought-provoking, isn't it? I guess I trust that right now I'm in reality and not a dream, because this feels more grounded and physical. Dreams seem to have a different quality to reality. Mr. Reed modernizes it by bringing up the simulation hypothesis. Are we living in a simulation? And if so, when we die, do we leave that simulation? How would we know? There's a woman in the room who is supposedly a prophet of God. She poisons herself and appears to come back to life. Has she glimpsed what's on the other side of the curtain? Was it a near-death experience? Was it a hallucination? Well, it turns out it was a trick. The bodies were swapped. And these are all questions that Sister Paxton is forced to consider, along with us, the audience. It really keeps up the suspense. But ultimately, all this is leading Sister Paxton to one place, what Mr. Reed describes as the one true religion. He claims to have discovered it. Control. He tells Sister Paxton that her religion, Mormonism, has been controlling her this whole time. He was able to predict her every move based on what her mentors had handed down to her. He says this: you have allowed them to dictate every decision of your life. And Mr. Reed's assertion is that control is what lies behind every religion. The desire to control others. That's what's ultimate. It's a bleak view of reality. And Mr. Reed has embraced it. Beneath his house, his female prophets are caged to do his bidding. After this climactic confrontation, Sister Paxton tries to escape, and her own faith appears to dwindle. As a bleeding Mr. Reed crawls towards her, she says this: I think it's beautiful that we all pray for each other, even though we know it probably doesn't make a difference. Now, it would be easy to see this film as atheistic propaganda, a slam dunk argument against the religions of the world, saying they're all about control. But I think that's too simplistic a reading of the film, because if the makers of the film simply wanted to have a theological debate, they would have had a theological debate. Instead, they told a story. According to Mr. Reed, control is what's ultimate, but does the film itself agree with that? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Mr. Reed is the villain. The film ends with him being defeated. And how does that happen? It happens at the hands of Sister Barnes, who we thought was dead. At the lowest point in the story, she arrives unexpectedly to expend herself out of love for her friend, defeating the enemy and setting the captive free. It's an act of self-sacrifice. And it's ironically reminiscent of the crucifixion, the very event that Mr. Reed was so determined to lump in with every other religion and mythology. Look at the imagery that's used here, the plank of wood with the nails, the bloodied nails. So what is ultimate in this film? What has the last say in this film? It's not control, as Mr. Reed would expect. In fact, it's not verbalized, it's shown, it's demonstrated. It is this self-sacrificial salvation, setting the captive free. Mr. Reed was bringing one kind of message, but the film around him is saying something different, it seems. Sister Paxton stumbles out into what is now a snowy wonderland. In the Bible, snow often represents purity. This scene is rather reminiscent of Lucy stepping out of the wardrobe into Narnia. The sun is rising, chasing away the darkness of the night before. A butterfly lands on Sister Paxton's hand. The camera angle changes and the butterfly is gone. Did it fly off? Did she imagine it? I think this ending shows that the questions of the film are still open. Maybe despite everything that Mr. Reed taught, there is more to this universe than control. Many people, like Mr. Reed, view Christianity as just another religion of control. And we've certainly tried to turn it into that. Mormonism is one such example. If you keep the commandments, you'll get a good place in paradise. But I find traditional Christianity compelling precisely because it's the one religion I've found that isn't about control. It's not about us giving our lives to God, it's about God giving his life for us. I don't know what you make of that. But I think we can reject Mr. Reed's assertion that Christianity contains nothing unique. I guess I look at that figure nailed to a piece of wood, descending to the deepest depths of agony in self-sacrificial love. And I think, if there is a deeper meaning to the universe, it's him. And I can't imagine denying that to my dying day. Even if I end up believing it's not true, I can't imagine a more compelling figure. So, Heretic. I was blown away by this movie. From the way it started, I thought it was going to be a dogmatic lecture directed against religious belief. But no, the character of Mr. Reed is doing that, but in the context of a film which is itself wrestling with those questions. And I don't think it claims to arrive at the answers. It leaves the questions open. And any film that starts those conversations about the biggest questions of life, I think that's a welcome addition to our cinema screens. So let me know what you think. Hello, Thomas here. You might enjoy a short film I directed called The Telltale Heart. It's based on the Edgar Allan Poe short story of the same name, and we had a lot of fun with it. Loads of practical effects and unhinged performances. And you can watch it by clicking here. I'd love to hear your thoughts. On this channel, I try to look at film from a different perspective, and sometimes I have a go at making films myself. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe if you'd like to stay in the loop, and I will be back soon. Goodbye.